Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really profound mystery, one that affects so many of us, yet it almost never gets talked about. We are talking about the hidden fear of sleep. Why on earth do we sometimes dread the exact thing that's supposed to give us rest? And more importantly, how can decoding our most bizarre, stressful nightmares actually reveal some incredibly surprising and uplifting truths about what we really want out of life? If you have ever dreaded turning off the lights, well, you are absolutely not alone. And today, we're going to uncover exactly why that happens.
You know that feeling? Have you ever woken up right as the morning light hits the room and instantly felt this indescribable heaviness just sitting right on your chest? It's not just grogginess, it's this lingering sense of dread. For so many people, the fear of sleep is a very real, incredibly powerful shared human experience. It's the fear of the night, the fear of losing consciousness, and honestly, the fear of what our own minds might force us to endure once we finally close our eyes. It is a really heavy burden, but as you'll see, the clues to lifting that burden are hidden right there inside the dreams that scare us the most.
I mean, just imagine your brain throws this at you while you're sleeping. You're beaten by a weaker opponent, forced to shovel chips in a rocket factory. It sounds completely absurd, right? But here's the thing. The brain doesn't just invent random nonsense to torture us. These chaotic scenes, they're actually highly structured messages. So today, we are going to act as psychological detectives. We're going to take these exact, super strange scenarios and decode them to figure out what our subconscious is desperately trying to tell us.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The fear of sleep and why we dread the night. Before we can decode these wild dreams, we really need to understand the resistance to falling asleep in the first place. Why does our own bed sometimes feel like a zone of anxiety instead of comfort? Well, according to deep psychological analysis, sleep anxiety typically stems from three main buckets. First up is the fear of losing consciousness and control. Biologically speaking, going to sleep requires us to completely surrender. We literally become defenseless. So for a hyper-vigilant mind, letting go of that control feels instinctively terrifying to our biology. It almost mimics a fear of death. Second, past trauma. If you've ever experienced sleep paralysis or a panic attack in the middle of the night, your brain learns to associate your bed with danger. It just becomes a theater of fear. And third, perhaps the most heartbreaking root of all, the profound dread of tomorrow beginning.
You ever catch yourself lying awake thinking, I really don't want today to end, or I don't want to fall asleep because then I have to wake up and do the whole thing over again? Society loves to mislabel this as laziness, but it's absolutely not laziness. It is your mind's ultimate protective defense mechanism. If your waking life is filled with severe stress, toxic relationships, or just overwhelming challenges, sleeping literally means fast-forwarding to the exact moment you have to face that pain again. Your mind is simply saying, hey, I don't want to be hurt anymore.
Moving right along. Section 2. Case Study 1. Dreams of Defeat and Losing to the Weak.
So what actually happens when all that daily stress boils over into our sleep? Let's analyze a really specific dream where you are being humiliated and defeated by a former classmate who is distinctly weaker than you. Now, the literal dream is incredibly frustrating, but the deep meaning, it's a brilliant psychological twist. That weaker classmate doesn't represent the actual person. Instead, your brain is using them as a symbol for a situation in your waking life that you feel you should be able to control. It's the ultimate frustration, right? You're failing at manageable, real-world stressors, maybe a project at work or just a basic daily task, and your brain translates that helpless feeling into a physical opponent you know you should beat, but suddenly can't.
And get this, why does this showdown happen in a high school classroom? In this dream, the person is physically trapped, wedged tightly right between school desks. We call this the high school trap. High school is actually a universal symbol stored in our brains representing rigid rules, restricted freedom, and just a total lack of autonomy. Being physically wedged between those desks flawlessly symbolizes the dreamer's real-life feelings of being helplessly boarded up. They're caught between difficult choices, totally unable to move forward or backward in their current life.
There's also an absolutely crucial biological factor at play here: short sleep. When you're dealing with sleep anxiety and you're only catching short, fragmented little periods of rest, your brain enters REM sleep way faster and much more intensely. The part of your brain responsible for emotional processing literally goes into overdrive. So short sleep actually amplifies your daily negative feelings. A minor little frustration that you could normally brush off gets supercharged into a vivid, highly emotional nightmare. The lack of sleep literally fuels the nightmare that keeps you from sleeping in the first place.
Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds. Case Study 2, The Rocket Factory, a massive undertaking. Okay, so once the dreamer finally manages to fall back asleep for a second time, the dream shifts dramatically. That claustrophobic high school classroom just vanishes, and it's replaced by this massive, sprawling environment. The dreamer is inside Elon Musk's vast rocket factory, but they aren't launching a rocket. No, instead, they're faced with a totally absurd, exhausting task. Step 1. The massive rocket has been shattered into tiny, microchip-sized pieces. Step 2. They have to move millions of these pieces across the factory using a simple shovel. Thanks, brain. Very helpful. And step 3. They must rebuild the rocket piece by agonizing piece. Visually, this is just exhausting, but psychologically, it perfectly illustrates the overwhelming hurdle of returning to society or tackling a massive life goal. The brain is basically saying, look, I see the goal, but the steps to get there are just too impossibly small and numerous.
Notice the stark contrast here. On one hand, you've got this massive ambition, perfectly represented by the grand stage of an Elon Musk rocket factory. A rocket represents the cutting edge, right? A desire to do something huge and meaningful in the world. But on the other hand, you have the overwhelming reality, represented by that little shovel. The dreamer feels completely disconnected from society, yet their brain specifically chose a world-scale ambition as the setting. It proves that beneath all that exhaustion, a powerful desire to actually participate in the world still exists.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the fascinating interaction that happens next in the dream. The dreamer has a video call with an American interviewer who looks at them and says, "You are competent," even as a hikikomori, which, is a term for someone experiencing severe social withdrawal. Just think about how profound that is for a second. The dreamer has withdrawn from society, they're terrified of it, yet their own subconscious mind scripts a character to look them right in the eye and validate their worth. It perfectly isolates the mind's ultimate hidden wish, to simply be recognized as capable exactly as they are.
The climax of this dream is actually incredibly touching. The dreamer hears this praise and immediately thinks, nope, it's a lie, it's just flattery. But then, after the video call supposedly ends, the dream gives them a tiny glimpse through the screen. They secretly see the interviewer passionately advocating for them, talking to a boss, just insisting on the dreamer's value. Even though the dreamer's conscious mind completely rejected the praise out of fear, their subconscious literally forced them to witness someone fighting for them.
And this brilliantly illustrates our final point, Section 4, the hidden hope, beyond the nightmare.
When we peel back all the layers of these terrifying, exhausting, and frustrating nightmares, what do we actually find? We find a really crucial contrast between surface fear and deep desire. On the surface, sure, the dreamer is experiencing self-blame, a terror of societal expectations, and that heavy dread of tomorrow. But right beneath that surface lies a profound, unshakable human desire. A desire to be needed. A desire to be connected to the world. The fact that the mind even conjures up a rocket factory or an advocate fighting for them proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the hope has not been extinguished. So, the most absolutely crucial takeaway from all of this is this. It is okay to be scared of the night. It is okay to feel the heavy dread of tomorrow. But you must remember the hope standing right next to that fear. Your brain is working so incredibly hard while you sleep, not just to process your anxieties, but to remind you of your own inherent value. So I'll leave you with this question to ponder tonight. Beneath the chaos of your own stress, what hidden, beautiful hope might your nightmares be trying to reveal to you? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you sleep a little easier tonight, knowing your mind is actually on your side.